Our next activity is comparing the atmospheric gases to a cake recipe. Before we start, let's look at Mama Mia's birthday cake recipe. Her recipe calls for 3 eggs, 4 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 cups of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of milk, and half a cup of butter. The 3 eggs, as well as the flour, are the structural ingredients in baking. Eggs provide leavening, add color, texture, flavor, and richness to the batter. They are very important in helping to bind all the other ingredients together. The flour, when used in baking flour, contributes body and structure, texture, and flavor to baked goods. When used in baking, it binds the ingredients together and supports the batter. Baking powder is a chemical leavening agent that causes batters to rise when baked. Without this ingredient, your cake will not rise. Sugar sweetens the taste of the cake. When sugar is used in baking, its role becomes more complex as it also adds volume, tenderness, texture, color, and acts as a preservative. Now, the directions. You have a recipe for a cake. All of the ingredients and measurements are included. Also, the role of each ingredient is indicated. Your task is to analyze the recipe, the contents, and measurements of each ingredient. Analyze the pie graph in your notebook and refer to the descriptions of each atmospheric gas in your chart on page 14. And then answer the question, in what ways are the ingredients in a cake like the gases in Earth's atmosphere? So the task is asking you to reread the recipe, reread the pie graph and the chart on page 13 and 14 so that you can create an analogy of how the cake or the ingredients in the cake are like gases in the atmosphere. So let's look at an example together. Okay, so let's look at the recipe and the question together. In what ways are the ingredients in a cake like the gases in Earth's atmosphere? Your answer should be at least, on your paper it may say 3 sentences. Let's put 5 sentences because I'm going to give you 2 examples. So example 1, the teaspoon of salt is like ozone because it is a small amount. So the teaspoon of salt A second example, the flour is like oxygen because it's necessary to make the recipe work, just like oxygen is needed to live.
That's what we got 5 minutes. Get the book on. Now you can buckle it. Now I can buckle it. Mama, I can buckle it.
Okay, so you've been given 2 examples. One example relates to the amount. One example relates to the purpose of the ingredient. Your task is to complete 3 more examples.